Hey everyone, it's Tammie, and it is that time of the month where I start talking to you about the books I read over the month and the weird sort of coincidental reading theme I found myself on during that reading period. But before we begin, I'm just going to apologize for this because I don't know what's going on with my bangs. They're like, I can normally trim them so they don't look too horrendous, but it seems like they're just getting more and more horrendous. It's just getting worse and worse. I don't know what's going on. I think I'll just blame the scissors, because it can't be me, right? I mean, even though I know nothing about hair, they should just behave, right? So please don't look at them, pretend they're not there. And so, yeah, enough about bangs. Let's talk about books. So, the reading theme. Now, keep in mind, I don't sit there at the beginning of each month and think, I'm going to be reading books about this. No, it's like I just start finding these weird coincidences in the books that I do happen to read. So it's kind of fun to try to find these, but it's also a little weird that like so many things just kind of mesh together like that. So the theme that I kind of found myself reading on was where, like a building or a house or something is a strong influence in the story. And I know there's probably like a billion stories out there like that, but just to be picking up book after book after book, it was kind of strange that these buildings and places were behaving way more than they should for just a, inanimate structure. So let's get on with the books. I've got four, sort of five, but I won't review every single one. I'll try to keep this a little bit quick. Yeah, right. I know. I'll just start rambling. So the first book in this sort of theme of mine that I found is The Stranger Times by Keeve McDonald, and he's writing under C.K. McDonald to kind of, I think he normally writes kind of humorous real world crime thrillers, but this is a humorous paranormal kind of thriller. So the premise is that the Stranger Times is a newspaper, and it kind of is a tabloidy kind of newspaper reporting on like all these weird things that are supposedly happening that you would normally read this paper and think, yeah, right, that's not true. But perhaps they are true. This woman starts working there, and there's a side story of the crime going on involving bad people, because yeah, it's a crime, duh. But anyway, so the stories end up kind of starting to mesh together, and it's really funny, and it's really quirky, and the characters are just all great, and I read it so fast, I just couldn't stop reading it. So I think unless you absolutely hate funny books, unless you despise books that are not firmly set in reality, you're really going to like this book. But so how the building plays in is that the Stranger Times building itself is a little bit quirky. It, like the other characters, it's a little bit quirky. And in the basement is the printing press, and the printing press is possessed, basically. And the whole building kind of has this strange aura around it. So there was building number one. Building number two, I think this also might be another indie author. I'm not entirely sure. The second pick is by A. Lee Martinez, and it's called Gil's All-Fright Diner. And as you might guess from that title, the diner plays a big part. These two guys, one is a werewolf and one is a vampire. They're kind of buddies, even though they argue a lot. And they show up at this diner, and while they're at this diner, a bunch of zombies start showing up. And the woman who runs the diner is like, hey, you want to pitch in and help? And so they do. And all these other weird things are going on around town, and so they kind of stick around and help the town solve the problem of the zombies. And it's really silly, as you can guess, but it was really entertaining, and it was the first book I read by him, so it was great. Or her. I guess A. Lee Martinez could be a her, I don't know. I think it might be him. Anyway, sorry, A. Lee. So yeah, that's that book and the diner did end up having a few issues with demonic possession. The third book, and I'm going to start with the books I recommend first, and then I'm going to talk about a couple that I don't really recommend that were, but anyway. So the third book that I had a building kind of theme in it that I enjoyed was the exact title. It's The Final Days of John Lennon, and it's by James Patterson, which seems kind of weird because it's nonfiction, but it's called The Final Days of John Lennon, but it kind of starts with the formation of the Beatles and goes all the way through John Lennon's death, and interspersed in between you're kind of going into the head of Chapman, who killed John Lennon. And so the building that plays a large part in that is obviously the Dakota where John Lennon was shot, and you do get a sense that the building is almost a character in itself. And this also goes in with something else I've been enjoying this month. And first off, I know, see, I just ramble, right? First off, the book really was good. I was really surprised. I don't normally like James Patterson, and I did listen to that on audiobook, and I highly recommend the audiobook because the narrator does the voices of the Beatles like to perfection, and does all these other musical artists and the managers and stuff like that. It's just like, because I've heard these people all recorded, and I was like, dude, you're great. This is the best like audiobook I've ever listened to. So if you like audiobooks done well, there you go. But other thing I was enjoying this month was my neighbors are moving. That's not enjoyable, but they're moving, and so they've had out like just a bunch of free stuff because they really need to, you know, downsize before they go. And one of the free things out was, wait for it, this giant thing of the Beatles, and it's every single CD or album that the Beatles have made. And so I saw this in their free stuff, and I literally like screamed, and I grabbed it, and I ran back home with it like, no, nobody's gonna take this from me. So with this going on, the CDs, and with the John Lennon book going on, it's been a bit of Beatlemania around here. So sorry, apologies to the husband because he's not a big Beatles fan. Hold on, thirsty. So books 4 and 5, I'll try to get these all in one bit. Books 4 and 5 are not my recommendations. I know other people will probably enjoy them, but everybody's got their own taste in books, so just remember that. Don't get mad at me. The first book was Mexican Gothic, and that's by Silvia Morena Garcia. And she writes these books that I think I should like because they sound exactly like something that should be up my alley. But I've tried a couple books by her, and I just can't get into her writing style. I don't know what it is. Many apologies to you, Sylvia, but I don't know why I can't get going with her writing style. But anyway, Mexican Gothic involves a girl going to visit her cousin who is behaving very strangely, and she's in this bizarre kind of weird house that is got some strange rooms, of course, and I didn't actually find out what was going on with this house or what was going on with the people in it, but very much the house building kind of theme for the month. And the final book, yay, we're at the final book. It was called It Takes Two to Mango, and this was a cozy mystery by CLAIRE Doyle, and normally I really enjoy cozy mysteries. I found this just kind of scrolling through on my library's website, and the building theme, let's just cover that first, is the house where the murder takes place is Casa Mango, and there was a lot of things going on with this house, so very much on the theme. But the book, it really felt in a lot of places like an Agatha Raisin ripoff. The story was good enough to keep me reading the whole thing, although I was kind of skimming towards the end. But the dialogue, oh man, I was about ready to rip pages out of the book. The dialogue was so bad. But, you know, not everybody minds that, so you might enjoy it if you like cozy mysteries and you need a little escape. It would be a great beach read, I do have to say that. So that is it for the books. I will be back in a couple weeks with a writing update, and hopefully I will have a title for my own book, which doesn't have anything to do with buildings. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. All right, I will chat at you next time. Bye.